Bam, we're live. I think we're live. Shit, it's always weird when I don't see like right away the eyeballs pop. Ah, there it is. Takes a second. Guys, good afternoon. Good morning. 11 a.m. 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on which is the west coast of the North American continent. A lot of you know it is California, Oregon, Washington, Canada, Alaska, Baja California. Speaking of Baja California, our guest, what's up, Matt? Our guest, Ed Calderon. Think he shows up?
I hope so. Yeah. I got a lot of confidence.
I'm going over to my emails to see if he emailed back. You know, it's a big guest when you don't have phone number contact with them. Oh shit! I didn't send you the
note.
You sent him a link?
Yes.
Okay, I'll send you over the notes right now. I didn't. There's no links, but I'm gonna send them to you anyway, Matt. I'll send it to Will. Caleb. Yeah. And we got a good week coming up. Who do we have tomorrow? What's tomorrow? Who do we have tomorrow? We have someone good. Let me see.
We have the raw meat eater.
Who? Oh, yeah. John. The guy who's been the raw food meat eating experiment. We got him tomorrow. That's going to be fun. I'm picking his brain. And then after that, we have Rich Froning and Van Sloot to talk about the new documentary, Undisputed. And then we have Hans Kim. If you do not know who Hans Kim is, you have, like I said before, you have to go type in his name and watch some of his work. Go to his Instagram account. It's Hans Hans Kim, Kim. He is so...
Yeah, he's hilarious.
Yeah, he's so darn funny. I'm so glad we got him.
We got Akira the Dawn, too.
Oh, yes. Akira the Dawn in the morning. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember who told me to get him, but thank you. Thank you.
I'm trying to see. Yeah, and we got another cool week lined up right after that, too. We're rolling, man. This is good stuff. We got some good people. We have some interesting guests, too, that I think will expose you guys to some cool people.
I'm getting nervous about Ed.
You're nervous, dude. I'm nervous. The thing is you play it cool. Like you're
okay. Yeah, I'm cool.
You play it cool.
So cool.
Me, like you don't see it, especially like early on before I was like able to do a lot of these back ends or I was like forward facing. I'd be like staring at the YouTube, like come on, like rechecking the email. But maybe he'll slide in a couple minutes behind.
I want to tell you guys something about kind of an insight that popped into my head recently. When someone like does me wrong or is doing something that's like I think is unethical or immoral or shows lack of integrity, oftentimes there was a phase in my life in the last 5 years where I would call them on it. And recently a friend of mine said that, hey, you don't need to, was pointing out to me, and I'm not sure if I'm going to explain this perfectly right, but you don't need to call every single person out on it. And specifically, they were talking about family members. You just have to know that the relationship has changed. Meaning, if I see someone doing something that I assumes, let's say, or has a belief that I know, let's say I don't see them hurting kids, but I know that they have beliefs that would lead to kids getting hurt. And I don't necessarily need to tell them that. I just need to be aware of it and show and know that it changes my relationship with that person and where I can and can't trust them. Let me use even something more simple. I'll be more specific. I saw an old lady the other day. I don't know how old she was, but she could barely walk. And she was leaning on a baby crib and she was walking along she was a baby stroller. She was walking along the cliff in Santa Cruz, California, and she's pushing a baby stroller. And I'm thinking to myself, I would never leave my baby with that lady, because if something happened, like let's say a 1 in a million, a bird came down and grabbed the baby. This lady didn't even have the dexterity to fucking push the bird away. And we have that here in California. We have giant birds, but let alone if the stroller fell over, she could do nothing to help the kid. As a matter of fact, yeah. She was using the stroller to lean on as much as the kid was sleeping in the stroller. And I don't do that. Another thing is when it's so hard to put yourself in other people's shoes and know what they're going through. But when and I use this example a lot when we had the shakeup over at CrossFit and I worked there. You know, I have 3 kids at home. I have a mortgage to pay. I have a family to take care of. And when people, wow, look at that mustache. Look at that mustache.
Yes, the man.
Ooh. Hey, did you put something in it, Ed?
Absolutely nothing. Just taco grease from all the roadside taco spots I've been hitting all along my travels. That's about it.
I'm gonna send you a link to some clay. I'm not a product guy, but this is some mud.
Okay.
And I just want you. I just gonna. I mean, I look at my hair. Look at my shit. My shit's going on right now. I just slapped the mud in it 5 minutes before we got on the air.
This is a completely new thing for me. For the longest, you know, I was basically you know, I didn't know I can grow one of these. Basically, you know, I have a mixture of Tlaxcaltecan native blood and Spanish and a little bit of Yugoslavian in me. So no hair on my chest. I can't grow a beard if they paid me, but apparently the mustache is, you know, it's good to go, I guess.
I have this friend, Dave Castro. He's Mexican. He can't grow hair on his body. I mean, what a lucky man. He is a hairless cat. He's a hairless, sexy beast. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't need ancestry.com. I just, you know, I just do this.
Oh my God.
Nothing.
Are you married, Ed?
No, I'm not.
No. Do you have kids?
Yeah, I have one kid. Yeah.
How old's your kid?
She's 7 right now.
Oh, I have a 7-year-old boy. Congratulations.
That's it's the best job in the world.
It really is. Are you pretty private about your personal life due to the nature of your vocation and hobbies and habits?
Yeah, I tend to be careful, but you know, some things are just known. Some things are hard to hide. And also, like, I get this question a lot, you know, like, all the stuff you've done and all the things you've been through, aren't you afraid? You know, if I was afraid, I wouldn't have signed all those years ago. Also, I don't know anything. I didn't do anything wrong, and I'm, you know, not in anybody's pocket. So, and I'm not speaking anything that is completely secret or unknown. I'm just speaking about it through a different lens than most people are accustomed to hearing some of these things out of Mexico. And finally, you know, it's this or go and crawl into a hole and never come out. You know?
I was watching this podcast with you. It's not easy interview. How many podcasts have you been on?
I have no idea. I have no clue.
Let me feel sorry for myself for a second here. It's not easy interviewing someone who's been on a shitload of podcasts for 2 reasons. You want to bring your A game for them. You want it to make it seem like it's worth their time that you came on the podcast. You need their background, but you don't want to waste their time. And you want, like, you're in my house now and I want you to leave here thinking like, oh shit, that was fun. You know?
Yeah. I get it. It is mostly every time I go on, there's something going on. So I talk about what's going on, and or if I can, you know, bring light to something that, you know, not a lot of people in the U.S. are kind of paying attention to, or they should be paying attention to, as far as what's going on with their neighbor, you know, to the south.
For those of you who don't know, this is Ed Calderon. Did I pronounce your name right?
Yeah, that's good.
Ed, how do you say it?
Calderon.
This is Ed Calderon.
Oh, there you go.
And
not bad.
He popped up on my radar like everyone does through my single source of all things, Instagram. And he has 18,000 posts. I'm wondering, I bet you he is in some top tier percentage of most posts. What's crazy is with 18,000 posts, you'd think there'd be a lot of boring shit. And there probably isn't a count with a better ratio of non-boring shit to absolutely just unbelievable shit on there. And it's hard to say what he is. It's really, really hard to say what he is. He's not normal. He is an artist, but his tools are so different than everyone else's. And his training and his schooling. And he's a master observer. And he spent a lot of his time doing it between the two countries of Mexico and the United States. And because of those skills he's acquired and all the training he's had, he's a great resource to people who have business on the border.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah, that's pretty good. I guess.
I mean, literally, like you could pigeon the whole guy and say, well, he's a narcotics expert on the smuggling of humans and trafficking, blah, blah, blah. But like, even if someone wanted to know something as obscure as like, hey, is the wall, do you think the wall is going to hurt migrating animals? I'm sure you have an opinion on that.
I do, you know, like I recently, you know, took a friend of mine who's is a SEAL, and he was a CIA contractor as well, a highly trained individual, and you know, we went on to the border wall, and I basically told him how to free climb that thing, you know, and it is, you know, it's a phenomenon for me. I grew up next to the border, so I remember the border when it was just metal slats, and not even that. Some places were just completely clear. You would see 50 people at a time, just, you know, going through. You know, they would say, if there is a moonless night and if there's fog, it's magic hour in Tijuana as far as immigration goes, you know, because that defeats every single technology you have on that border. And you would see them just go across. Now, for us as locals of Tijuana, we would see this, and it would be like it's part of the background.
Meaning people crossing back and forth between the state without using a passport.
Yeah, it is completely part of the normal, the baseline normal. You know,
is it both ways? Do people come back and forth, or just in?
That's another interesting phenomenon right now. You know, marijuana trafficking is happening from California into Tijuana. Not
good. That makes me feel happy. Fuck those guys in Tijuana who we bought all our weed from in high school.
No, you know, California's bringing their A game as far as weed now, as far as trafficking it into Tijuana. And then immigration is going the other way. You know, San Diego 2 is the nickname that Tijuana is getting because all the sky rises coming up, luxury apartments and apartments that are pretty well off. Most of the economic migrants of San Diego are finding their home now in Tijuana, you know, despite all of the news, despite everything that they say about Tijuana. You know, the border in a way is becoming, you know, meaningless with a lot of this economic migration now going the other way.
Ed was born in Mexico. He did 10 years with the law enforcement over there.
Sure.
Is that correct?
Yeah. 12 years counter narcotics work, working with the government in Mexico. Yeah, that's what I did.
And then came to the United States legally.
Yeah, I had an opportunity, and I crossed into the United States and went through my legal immigration, you know, process. I did it during the during Trump's election, which was, you know, not easy to do such a thing at that time. Basically, something that would take about 6 months took 2 years for me because of the political climate going on at that time. But yeah, I got my I'm a permanent resident, tax-paying permanent resident, and now I kind of I'm trying to figure out my space specifically, you know, in the United States. I've been bouncing back and forth between California and Kentucky right now as far as trying to figure out my permanent residence as far as, you know, where I settle in. But, you know, work is on the road. You know, I go where I'm needed, and that's what I've been doing.
And you're a working machine. Right before we got on the call, sorry guys, I'm really doing him a disservice of how much experience and notoriety and what a wealth of knowledge this man is on all levels. I mean, especially for how young he is a true treasure, and we'll talk about that in a second. How much experience he has, life experience he has, and the value of that. But I text a friend who is very, very high up, was very, very high up in the DEA, and more than 30 years, I want to say 40 years, retired, real big shot over there. And I said, hey, do you know who this guy is? He said, absolutely. I trained with this guy. And I'm like, well, and he goes, he won't know who I am. But yeah, I took trainings from this guy. I was like, wow.
Yeah, I've trained some people that I basically, because of my status. It's like I was born in Mexico. I worked for a foreign armed intelligence group, and I migrated to the United States legally. I, in no way, shape, or form, can probably ever get clearance of any kind with the government, right? But I'm, you know, I'm pretty knowledgeable about some things that some of these people need and aren't aware of. So every now and then I get, pulled into these training assignments for the government, and I don't know who any of these people are. I just know that I just know they
Oh,
right?
right. There's no need to tell you.
Oh, yes. There's not even that. There's no need. They just tell me, Ed, give me your phone. Give me an ID, and they leave it on a clipboard in the security gate, and I get my big, visitor permit thing on my chest, and I, go in, and I can't see certain things, and I just go in to do my thing.
So they might take you into a room with 20 guys. You don't know who they are. You train them on border crossing with a high value target, and then you leave. And then maybe 6 months later, you find out that was the president's security detail.
Well, yeah.
If you ever find out,
if I ever find out,
right.
That's I do stuff like that for the government sometimes. I've done that for State Department. I went and visited the FBI's OSAP program. Basically, their overseas program where they send agents overseas and how to prepare themselves for stuff like that. The unconventional is what I'm known for. When I say unconventional, I mean not using a bobby pin to open up a pair of handcuffs. I'm speaking of some of the stuff that I learned directly from people that apply things, criminal sources. I spent a long time having conversations, documenting, learning from some of the best teachers on the planet right now when it comes to fourth generational warfare. By this, I mean, groups that are non-state actors getting the better of a government. This is who I learned from. And, I quickly found out that some of the stuff that I posted online as far as my social media accounts like Instagram were completely unknown to even the highest levels of, the training community. When it comes to some of these, escape and evasion, restraint, defeating restraints, bribery. Basically, I do a whole class on bribery and how to bribe foreign officials if that becomes a need in a hostile environment. Apparently, there's not a lot of people like that can talk about some of these things from direct experience. So these are
God, will you teach someone how to bribe me? Make it like 10 million or more.
Wow. I was gonna say, Ed, are you still running your courses? Because when I first saw you was on Sean Ryan's show there from Vigilant Elite, and you at that time you were still doing courses kind of based off Ed's manifesto, and you were talking about how once you would arrest these people or they would kind of do something, and you would say, okay, hold on, how'd you guys do that? What'd you do there? And you would be writing it down in that notebook there. Are you still doing courses on your own like that, or not as much anymore?
Yeah. I'm about to go to Texas. I'm at a company called Tax Sevan in Dallas. A lot of people that come to some of these classes are mostly world travelers. Some of them never say who they are. They just come in and they I can smell the $1 million worth of government training on them. And some of them are just legit people that don't want to be trapped by fear, as far as them fearing something that is unknown, like, hey, what if somebody breaks into my house in a home invasion and zip ties me to the toilet and I can't get free? Basically, I usually explain it this way. A lot of these things are unknown to you before you come to this training floor with me. And just like a ghost, it seems scary, but once you walk through it, the ghost disappears and ceases to have any control over you as far as the fear. Whatever your normal was, a few hours ago or a few days ago, once this training is over, that line is going to be way, way ahead of most people out there as far as what your normal is. Your normal is going to be being able to weaponize things from Home Depot. Your normal is to being able to do something in case there is a drugging or somebody gets drugged in your group if you're traveling somewhere in Puerto Vallarta, for example. Your normal is going to be preparing for defeating restraints that might be put on you by somebody that's trying to do something horrible to you or your family, and also normalizing some of that knowledge base for people. Every now and then I get asked, hey, do you do classes for minors? And I'm like, no, that's your job. What do you mean? What do you mean by that, Ed? Well, I mean, I can take I can bring in a bunch of 12-year-olds and show them how to get out of zip ties, or you as a father knowing this knowledge base or skill set, or as a mother knowing this knowledge base, skill set that I showed you, take some of this, and it started infusing it into your, the lives of your kids. I don't know, the snack drawer has a padlock or a pair of handcuffs or zip ties on it, and my kid knows how to break through the 3 of them. I make it fun for her, but she's learning a skill. When we were kids, we would play hide and seek. We were having fun, but we were learning a survival skill. Something, some of these kids that go through active shooter training now, which is something that is, soul crushing to me to see, but they have to now learn in a conventional training segment, active shooter shit, what they would learn just by having fun, which is run and cover and hide and don't move.
Yeah.
Right. So things like that is something I try and reconnect people with. I always say, a lot of these classes that I do are mostly about remembering who we were and remembering some of the skills that our parents, grandparents had that were let go because of complacency, making what was legal illegal, turning a tool into a weapon, like people carrying around knives and they say, yeah, what are the laws on carrying the self-defense knife? First off, that's retarded. That is a tool. That is a tool. That is there's no laws about carrying tools. So always focus on things being tools. And if something happens, you run into a cheesecake, you can cut it. If you run into somebody putting their arm through the car window and trying to carjack you, it turns into a fillet knife, right?
Right. I look what they've done with the surgical mask. They've used it as something to protect doctors or people from sweat dripping from a doctor's mouth into an open wound, to taking over a whole planet and brainwashing them. It's amazing.
Or taking the clip from inside of one of those and using it to open up handcuffs. or think about it, I've been in places where you have constitutional carry of firearms wearing a mask.
Wait, explain that to me. I'm not following.
So there's places in this country where you can carry a firearm with you legally,
right?
And you're also obligated to carry a mask with you.
Yeah, nuts.
So it is
2/3 of the way to the bank robbery already.
It's fine. It's fine. I view it as an experience. I'm gonna get. I've always kind of thought about life as a ride, and I always say that in some of my posts.
Yes.
And I think this is part of the weird carnival part of the ride, I guess. Some weird stuff. This is Alice in Wonderland when she takes some of those growing pills in the Disneyland ride, I guess.
This is when you're on the carousel and you're at the top and you realize some of the bolts in your carriage are falling out. You're like, oh shit.
Yeah. When you start seeing some of those just the insanity around you as far as what people believe is true and what people fight about, you start realizing that, just keep your hands in the cart as it's going downhill.
You talk about that in a show I watched about what's normal, and you mentioned the word normal here, and it's something that I really have to remember, and I'm going to stroke myself a little here, but I film movies in 100 countries, in 100 of the poorest countries in the world. I filmed 3 live famines on 3 separate continents. I filmed in 49 states. I've seen some really, really horrible shit. Like not like the shit you've seen probably. Well, maybe if you stomped around Central America, you've seen those kids eating out of dumps and burning shit. But I haven't seen violence, but I've seen absolute civilizations on the brink of just collapse. And so my normal is when I hear people talk about food droughts in the United States, I'm like, you're a fucking idiot. There is no food drought anywhere in the United States. You can eat healthy at the worst 7-Eleven in the world. You don't have to eat Doritos and Coke. You can buy some hot dogs that don't have sugar and move on your way. Like, I don't want to hear. I've seen I spent months and months in places where kids are dying from starvation and where there's no water. The whole existence is about getting water. So my normal isn't like these normal. Like the pandemic is a fucking absurd joke to me because I know that there's a whole continent who would give 2 shits about it. No one in Africa, the vast majority, none of the people I saw in the poorest parts of China or India or Central America are worried about a fucking mask.
Yeah, I mean, it is a luxury
Yeah.
it is a
Yes.
luxury.
Yes. It's a luxury.
It's a luxury to worry about masks and pushing people not to go to work and stay home.
Yes.
When a lot of these people are actually working in irregular commerce. I mean, Mexico has a lot of that, you know, and had a lot of that. Yes, people got sick, people died, but it is a luxury for them to stay home and not go out and sell what will feed their family for that specific day. And yes, Mexico has poverty of that type, you know, in some places. When I go about when COVID happened, I was helping some people put helping out some people putting for the government working, advising on some of the COVID centers that were being built up along the border. And so I didn't stop traveling. I went on a bunch of empty flights. I got all the vaccines, and I still got sick twice. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm aware that there's some studies out there that say that some of those vaccines might lessen some of the effects of the virus on people, but I'm also aware that despite all of the vaccinations, it has eaten away a giant segment of the elderly population in places like Mexico. Like I've got to witness it with vaccines and all.
Isn't that crazy that you say you got the vaccine, but we live in a climate where you still have to say you're not an anti-vaxxer?
It is.
My wife is white, but I'm not racist. I mean, if I would have met a black girl, I would have married her. Like, I mean, it's just fucking nuts that I hear you. I'm not judging you. I'm just saying, like, you got to say it.
It is. It is. Again, and for me, it's a luxury, you know, to be able to say that, because there's people out there that haven't had any of that and don't have a choice, and they're still going about their lives.
Yeah.
But you know, for me, it's been coming to grips with some of the weird aspects of control and weird aspects of perception in the United States. Simple one, you know, everybody was losing their minds when it came to food and toilet paper and stuff like that. You know, I have friends who are on both sides of the political spectrum. You know, as far as politics on my end, I can't vote because of my immigration status. I have to become a full citizen to be able to vote, so I can't even vote. Can pay taxes though.
And we thank you for that.
No,
as a first generation Armenian, I thank you for your taxes, and I'm sure you make good money on these seminars, so I appreciate it.
I make what I can, and I know it's a thing, and we have to, you know, all have to pitch in. And I've never, you know, I was raised Catholic, and all that Catholic guilt behind me, you know, so I have to work my ass off. Anyways, you saw everybody losing their minds over toilet paper and some food shortages. And also, you know, a lot of my conservative friends were, you know, rooting for one side, and a lot of my not conservative friends were rooting for the other. Speaking horrible stuff about illegal immigration and illegal immigrants on one end. And on the other end, you know, speaking about how horribly it was being managed as far as a pandemic and everything. And I don't know, I never experienced any produce shortages in the United States. Uber Eats, you know, was growing. Everybody was staying in and eating in. And who do you think was working in all of those kitchens?
Right.
It became apparent that illegal immigrants in this country became essential workers.
Right.
Despite the politics and who was in the White House and who is in the White House now, they became essential workers, but they're still a lynching post for a lot of people's politics. That specific part of it made me, you know, question a lot of things as far as my own personal beliefs and some of the people around me, what their beliefs were.
What is the problem with immigration in Mexico? We can't have people just flooding over the border, or else then why the fuck have a border? But then why not put something in place where people can come and go and work and do all their shit, and people can come across legally? What is the problem with the immigration? By the way, I've had Jorge Ventura on the show a couple of times. I don't know if you know him, but he knows you, and he's a great dude. First generation. No, he may even have been born in El Salvador, or his parents for sure were.
You know, again, I don't make a living off specifically reporting on the border and making stuff, news related stuff about the border, but I have opinions about it because both I've train border patrol and law enforcement on the U.S. side, and also I worked as law enforcement in the Mexican side.
And you lived and you grew up in Tijuana.
Grew up in Tijuana.
That's about it. That's an expert PhD.
Arrested a bunch of people smugglers. Also helped a bunch of lost migrants. That some of them would get dropped off in the there's a Costco in Tijuana near the border. Some of these migrants, innocent people that have no idea what's going on, would pay some of these smugglers $5,000 and be dropped off at that Costco in Tijuana and tell them, and they would say, "Yeah, this is San Diego, just run," So I'm aware of the problem in more ways than one, and I'm aware that it's not a black and white problem, right? The most corrupt federal agency in the United States, as far as convictions and people being caught doing shady shit, is the Border Patrol. I, as a law enforcement professional in Mexico, got to witness some of this corruption by seeing, Border Patrol agents pointing their car towards somewhere where nothing was happening and people making their way through with backpacks on. I got to see that.
You mean like behind them? Like, oh, we didn't see them.
Yeah. I got to see some of that. And also on the U.S. side, I got to see some insanely moving and touching expressions of humanity by some of these Border Patrol agents that would, out of their pocket, pay for things like candy, diapers, toothbrushes for some of the floods of migrants being literally tossed over the border. Some minors being tossed over the border. Some of them drugged. And I'm aware that a lot of people want to vilify them and say they're all bad. And a lot of people want to make them seem the hero and saying that they're all good. I think as a person that worked in law enforcement in Mexico, where we're, not all good and not all bad.
Right.
I'm aware that the problem is more complex. There's more colors than black and white. And I think people need to wake up about that fact. It is a broken system. Yes. There are a lot of challenges that some of these people face trying to, manage a border where the politics are not on their side, and the cartels that they're working against, as far as smuggling of people and drugs and other things. All of that is growing, and they're shrinking as far as the support and the money that they're getting. That's
what else is a big smuggling item besides people and drugs? What else is on that list?
Guns and bullets being smuggled to down into Mexico. That's another aspect of it. Again, most Mexicans are very conservative in their views. A lot of people look at some of my opinions and say, "Ed, you're conservative." Like, I want to smoke a joint at my gay best friend's wedding and have a gun on me. Those are my political views, right? That would be my perfect America.
I would be standing right next to you. I quit smoking, but I'd have a whiskey.
We all have our own poisons, right? They're all poison, just in small quantities. But you view this whole. It is very complex as far as what's going on. Guns and bullets are coming down into Mexico and feeding. People focus on, the Ukraine, Afghanistan, the Middle East problems. And there is open warfare going on with child soldiers, with IEDs, with chemical weapons being dropped from drones, trench warfare.
At our border.
Go to where all of your avocados come from.
Right.
Go to Chipotle and if you order guac on your burrito, then you are part of what's going on.
Wow.
You are part of that whole situation, right?
Yeah.
The government recently put limits, I think restrictions on avocados. I made a post about it. People are into crypto and NFTs. Invest in avocados. I said that yesterday, and then the news about avocado sales restricted from coming out of Michoacan, which is where a lot of them come from, because they had threats on a government employee over the United States down there. So what I'm trying to say is the interconnectivity of the United States and Mexico is far beyond what most people on the conservative side want to admit.
Right.
And it's also, you know, it's also not as easy or not as simple as just doing open borders like the other side wants to think, or the left wants to think, right?
Right.
It is a very complex issue. It's not that simple. We are connected by blood, you know, and there's more people out there than not have some at least neighbors or people that have Mexican descent that live in and around them. You know, if you buy Uber Eats or go to some of the most, you know, best restaurants out there. I remember I took a governor. I used to work security for a governor in Baja. I took him to a restaurant in San Francisco. We had some U.S. Marshals with us helping us out with his security. We went to check out the kitchen in this restaurant. You know, one of the best restaurants in San Francisco at that time. Everybody there spoke Espanol, you know, all the U.S. Marshals, they were all Mexicans, you know, and that's the same thing I've seen throughout this country.
I can't think of one restaurant I go to in Santa Cruz, California, where there's not some Latin dude. I don't know if they're Mexicans, but some Latin dude working in the kitchen.
We're interconnected. You know, Mexico is a young country. There's youth. That's why the cartels don't have a shortage of hands. You know, it's being meant, and also that's why there's no shortage of young people climbing that border fence that they made.
Is the word Mexican word fuckery? Like, is that like 300 years ago there was no such thing as a Mexican? Then now there's a Mexican. They got fucked. They're the poster child for Catholicism. Is it like, holy shit, what happened? They're like Mexicans are basically these people who lived in Mexico who were raped by the Spaniards, and instead of addressing the issue, we're just going to call them Mexicans now.
I don't
like,
know.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's like
you know, you see a dog walking down. Like, I had a Great Dane, and people would be like, "What kind of dog is that? A Great Dane?" But I know somewhere inside he was made from 5 other dogs.
Yeah. I mean, again,
someone had to be like, "Now you're a Great Dane." Like, and Mexicans are kind of new, right?
I mean, it's so there's this whole like I get a weird, you know, trip by going to, you know, being in the United States and seeing people Latinx themselves, call themselves Latinx, or
yeah, I don't approve.
Or the whole Aztec tattoos, which is also fascinating because, you know, Aztecs with the big feathered regalia, which is completely made up. It wasn't historically accurate. Also, Aztec, you know, maybe Mexica, and not all of us were Mexica. Example, my grandmother was from Michoacan, and she was Tlaxcaltecan. You know, it's fragmented. It's not as easy as just saying Mexica or I was Aztec. You know, it's segmented. You know, you go to Kentucky and then you go to LA.
Right.
Those two are the same country, and your mind is blown. You know, I go to a different state every weekend, and it's it is the same concept. Mexico is very fragmented. You know, depending on where you are, you can go to Monterrey, you can go to Oaxaca, and it's going to be 2 completely different countries and 2 completely different perspectives on what's going on, you know.
400 years ago, though, if I landed there, who were the people?
I mean, there was a bunch of them. You know, the main ones were the Mexica, or what is, you know, blanketly called the Aztecs, which were a bunch of tribes, basically, that centered in the Valley of Mexico. And they were the big dogs at that time, you know. They had running water, you know, they had the drainage, they had culture, they had the zero, they had, you have to think about it this way. The Spanish came with issues. You know, I get a kick out of also some of these people calling for decolonizing, you know, Mexico, or they're Mexican and they wanted to talk about decolonizing and stuff like that. It's kind of hard to decolonize, you know, 30, 40, 50, 20% of your blood, you know. The difference is that instead of getting rid of the natives, a lot of the Spanish, you know, intermingled. The Spanish were coming from a country that had its own dealings with conquest. Interesting side note and story.
Please.
Hernan Cortez came to the Americas bearing the Virgin of Guadalupe, which was a statue that was hidden and from the Moors when the Moors actually conquered Spain. So they were coming with their own issues of conquest, right? And they landed here in Mexico and said, you know what, let's go. They scouted around, started figuring out who was who, and basically gathering allies of all of the enemies of the Mexica of the empire. The Spanish didn't conquer Tenochtitlan. Those weren't the guys that took down the Mexica Empire. All of their enemies combined did. All of the Spanish did was just basically say, "Hey, I think we can all take them if we're together."
Right.
That's what happened. So if you kind of think about it this way, we have a lot of guilt on our end as far as that conquest, because we basically killed ourselves in a lot of ways as far as some of the cultural stuff that happened. That Virgen de Guadalupe that Hernan Cortez brought had a crystal scepter in one hand and a baby Jesus in the other, and a crown. And
no shit.
And she was stepping on a crescent moon. And then you go further on in history, and now the Virgen of Guadalupe right now, which, that one.
Wow.
Look
I
at
didn't
that,
know that's the origins of that.
Look at the black crescent moon she's stepping on.
Yeah.
Why would that be there? It's because the Spanish brought that with them, and that was their main trauma as Catholics and as Europeans were there, that the Moors or the conquered them. So when they put their image together to basically turn a Mexica deity, which is what you see when you see the Virgen of Guadalupe. It's a Mexica deity. It's an Aztec deity. They transformed an Aztec deity into Catholic palatable deity that the natives could venerate and pay the church for. So they basically tore down a earth goddess statue, and just this is what replaced it. It's an interesting story.
Yeah, wow. Hey, switching subjects here a little bit. In that episode 1408 that you did with Joe Rogan, in the chair next to you, there's a bag. Is that your bag? A bag and a jacket. Did you set your bag and your jacket down next to you in the empty chair?
Yeah.
And is there a gun in there?
Yeah.
There's a gun. Yeah. Wow. I wonder how many people have brought guns onto
no, it wasn't
Rogan.
It wasn't that dramatic. It's
No, of course not. Not for you. That's normal for you. It's just you had your wallet, a piece of chewing gum, and your
and the Glock.
It was a training gun and some training equipment. That's what that was in there, including a pair of handcuffs.
Wow.
I showed him some stuff. He wanted to see what I was about, so I showed him how to get handcuffs and weird manipulating stuff with guns and training knives and stuff like that. Not an actual living live firearm. Like I left some of that stuff for him. David Blaine, the magician, later went on there and tried to break the pair of handcuffs that I left him, and he couldn't.
Oh, that's cool.
And I told him, well, it's because it's not a prop. These are real handcuffs. Right? I always have my backpack with me, and it's always around. What people kind of don't figure out about me is that most of probably 70% of what I own is traveling with me right now, as far as my duffel bag and a backpack. I live off those two things, so they're always with me.
So you're very simple, man.
I keep light, because I move around a lot.
Yeah.
I wish I could have all this stuff, but that's not my trip right now. Later on, probably when I slow down.
Yeah, the grass is greener. Do you think you'll end up in Mexico? That'll be where you set up your twilight years?
No, I don't know. I have no idea. It is I've been on the move for about 5 years now, I think, kind of nonstop. Every now and then it's like spend Christmas in California, or stop for a month in Utah, wherever there's like a good space. One of the blessings of my life, I think, right now is that I've invested in a lot of people as far as training and education and stuff like that. So I get some amazing offers every now and then, hey, example, Sean Ryan, just inviting me out there to film some of these weird videos and me showing some of this stuff, and then just getting to hang out somewhere out in there in Tennessee and just enjoy, and just, figuring some things out about the culture and just living locally for a month if that is something that I'm interested in. Anywhere I stop is usually somewhere I want to learn something. Went to Utah and learned about long range shooting by some of the best people that your government's produced. Go to Arizona and learn about Santa Muerte and how it's taking root in the United States as a cult now. Go to Tennessee and Chattanooga and just roll some jujitsu with some of the guys out there or something. That's usually what I try and figure out for myself when I travel. You have to be light if you want to do stuff like that.
Yeah, and what you started the show talking about you adapt, or you have friends in on both sides of the political spectrum, and man, it doesn't. You name some of the most conservative hotbeds in the United States and some of the most liberal. It doesn't get much more liberal than Chattanooga, and doesn't get much more conservative than certain parts of Utah. Where is your accent, Ed? How come you sound like you were born in like I don't know, Washington?
Yeah, I get that a lot. It's great. I guess it's working. I went through language school, specifically because they wanted me to be able to speak English without an accent.
In the States, or where did you do that?
No, that was in Mexico. And specifically, they wanted me to be able to talk to people about whatever over the phone, drug deals and stuff like that, in an English and Californian accent. Growing up on the border, I learned English by watching Mr. Rogers, but the accent, I had to work on it,
Spanish was your first language?
Yeah, Spanish is my first language. Every now and then I get like, Ed doesn't even speak Spanish. Mira, cabrón, yo hablo español y con huevos mexicano, cabrón. Que vergas. Sorry about all the bad language.
Bad language away. That's my favorite.
And also, I can fake my way into speaking like I can't speak Spanish. You wanna check that out?
Please.
Yeah.
Please.
Mucho gusto. Mi nombre es Ed Calderon. Me gusta mucho su cultura. Coco es la mejor película de Pixar. Dia de los Muertos es encantadora película. Me gusta mucho. So I used to fucking fake that shit for people because for part of the job, right?
That's like Spanish 4, high school Spanish 4. That's still still pretty fucking good for how bad it was. That's awesome.
It's a mind fuck, trying to switch that to have like a gringo accent going out of Mexico. I turn that on every now and then for people.
That's awesome. The adaptation to your environment is so cool, and being able to take whatever best conceals whatever the reason why you're there, or if you don't want to be seen, or if you don't want to be noticed. Not a lot of people know this about me, but back in the day, I used to go to art school, and it was cool to paint graffiti, and I'd be out in Oakland and San Francisco, and I'm obviously very white from the suburbs, right? But I've realized very quickly that if I dressed like a tweaker and then moved as if I was homeless or a drug addict, nobody messed with you.
Yeah.
Wow. Like this guy's got nothing to offer, right? So I could just adapt to that environment. But to hear you do those different dialects, stuff like that, that's just like a whole nother level of it. That was really cool. Thanks for sharing.
There's a concept in the US called the gray man concept, which I'm not a fan of. The concept of being able to blend into your environment and dressing in muted clothes so you won't be able to be seen, or all of these weird concepts. The problem with that mindset is that that could work if you don't leave your normal environment every day. That might work, but once I with this giant mustache go to Oaxaca, which is Mexico, and I will stand out like a motherfucker, right? And even if I shaved off this mustache and dressed locally, I'm too tall. Everybody there is hobbit sized.
How tall is hobbit sized? Let's be clear here. How tall are you?
It's probably right there. I'm about shorter than 5, probably 4 something,
honey, let's move to Oaxaca.
Yeah.
I'm only 5'5". I would love to go somewhere where I talk down to people.
Go there. It's great.
Okay, Oaxaca it is.
But like you say, the best thing you can do, I always tell people, you have the superpower, all of us do, of narrative. By this I mean, if I arrive to your bar mitzvah in Denali and fucking do a few donuts in the parking lot and then park my car and throw a beer can into the fucking woods, I've now told you my story, who I am. That might be complete bullshit, but I've just done that. That is an extreme example of it, and something I talk to people about. But
Yeah.
we are in control of that in a lot of ways, and we just don't realize it. The perception aspect of it. Do you dress in gray, or do you dress in such a way where people make up their minds about who you are before they even talk to them? And again, I wish I could tell you the CIA showed me some of this stuff, but this is all scam, hood rat fuckery that I learned from people that would scam other people. Small tip for people: if you're ever in a place where you think is very unfriendly and you want to figure out a way or to find an individual in that environment that could allow you access or at least be a guide in such an environment, untie one of your shoes and walk around with it. The first person that tells you that to tie your shoes is going to be the most accessible individual in that environment.
Wow.
Wow. And now you have access.
I feel you. I feel it.
And now you have access to somebody that can be open for a conversation. And also, you started that conversation, but he thinks he did.
Yeah.
So now they're completely disarmed.
Or hopefully she. Ed, I was you'll like this, I think. I was on the Mombasa Nairobi highway. It's what connect Mombasa is a city on the east coast of Kenya, on the Indian Ocean, and then Nairobi's their capital, inland, I don't know, 400 miles. And I was in the middle there somewhere. Not quite in the middle. I was probably like 100 miles outside of Mombasa. And I was with a caravan of 2 cars driving, and one of the cars broke down, and I was with these fucking people who were the biggest pussies in the whole fucking world. And they freaked out because, you know, Kenya, there's no white people. There's no Mexican people. There's just like, I mean, you can tell the difference between the different tribes there of black people if you just have fucking like the awareness of a snail, right? You're like, oh, they're from Somalia. Those are Kenyans. Those are Nigerians. I mean, it's not just black people like it is in the US maybe. And so, but one of the cars broke down, that I was in. The people in my car all jumped out and jumped into this other car. And me and the bodyguard were like concerned. I was the cameraman, right? We were concerned about all the people freaking out, and it was all white people. And they jumped in the car and took off. So I'm there with this giant fucking 300-pound white dude from West Virginia who's the bodyguard, and me with 2 $15,000 Canon 1DXs with the most fucking amazing lenses on the Nairobi Mombasa highway. Yeah. With fucking I mean, my shoes are more valuable. No one, the 10,000 people around me don't have shoes. I'm on a crazy highway with 18-wheelers going by. It was nuts. Eventually, we jumped in the back of a pickup truck. Like an hour later, someone was nice enough and we drove us into town. But I had no skills. Like I probably should have just thrown the cameras away.
I'll give you a small tip, and
please. Too late, but okay.
It's fine.
By the way, no one ever threatened us. Like in the 4 hours I was out there, everyone was cool as shit. But we stood out like a sore thumb. Like people coming over and like touching you. Like, are you real?
Act cool and act like you belong there. You know, even if you're lost.
Yeah, I started kissing babies.
I worked with a group that filmed something down in Mexico in a pretty shady place as part of a security contract thing that I did. They were concerned about their camera equipment being, stolen and or fuck with.
Yeah.
So I came up with a quick solution, really quick one. Biohazard stickers on a water cooler, right? And a big sign that I made with a Sharpie that said COVID testing equipment. And we went through military checkpoints, police checkpoints, and some shady checkpoints, and nobody wanted to touch those fucking coolers, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that aversion or being aversion is also a concealment factor for shit.
Yeah.
People don't want to get searched. They make themselves vomit on themselves of not getting searched. People don't want something to be looked at closely, so they make it disgusting as shit.
Yeah.
It is another little small lesson from some shady people out there as far as how to hide things.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, I've been in places where I'm like lost as shit. Maybe not Nairobi, but in other places where I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, and I immediately go into. If you go into defensive mode, if you're, I don't know, like I'm not that guy. I'm not the.
Me neither.
Everybody's a threat. Everybody's have a plan to kill everybody in the room and all that stuff. I'm more on the line of figure out what you have that you can give away to somebody and invest in somebody in that environment. Figure out something you can do or a skill set. You know, I always carry around small magic tricks for kids and to give away. If I find myself in a situation where the adults are unaccessible, but maybe the kids are, and I can just be friendly towards that in that way.
Even stickers.
There's a magic trick which is basically a bendable coin that you can use to bite and then flip back into shape, right? And that one is a fucking showstopper for kids. Or flashlights.
They
sell these big cases of flashlights at Costco that are probably like $2 each.
I took those to Africa on 3 of my trips to Africa. Just shitloads of little flashlights. Kids love that shit.
Hand them out, things like that, small things.
Yeah.
A cell phone. They took me down once working on a contract. I had a bunch of guys with me who were high level military guys, and I was the guide basically. They were talking about satellite surveillance and being able to track things with their equipment and all this stuff, and having to pay a company to advise them on local shit that's going on. I was like, oh, that's great. I gave a phone to the parking attendant guy at the resort we were staying in, and I said, if you feed me all the information I need, you can keep that phone when we go. It's probably a $200 phone, smartphone, with credit in it. So before we would go to the hotel, I'd call them and say, like, is everything cool? Anything happen at night? Any weird shit happen? Oh, everything's fine. A few cars that came in here that are kind of weird. Oh, okay. Thank you for letting me know. Hey, where's the best steakhouse here? Or where would you take a small Pomeranian to the vet if something happened? The person that we were with had a Pomeranian. I wouldn't take him to this. I would take him over here probably. And this is where our rich clients go. It provided me with the best intelligence.
Yes.
Wow.
And it was an investment of $200 as far as the phone, while some of the people that I was working with were invested probably somewhere in around $6,000 on this weird security consultation thing that we didn't use. It's an example of a lot of us already know a lot of these things, and we see them as high level ninja shit that the government might do or some spy agents, but we do it every day in small ways in our daily lives. We just don't realize how you can apply it to other aspects of bad situations if you're in them.
I'll give you an example. If you go on vacation, so I had a boss who explained this to me. Every time we went to a hotel, and we traveled a lot, we never stayed anywhere for more than 5 days. And anytime we went somewhere, every single person he saw upon landing at the hotel, he gave a $20 bill to. Every single person. And so for him, that if we saw 10 people, the bellman, the guy who takes your car, the lady at the front desk, he would give out a $20 bill.
Yeah.
And he would explain to me that, hey, you're now paying them more than they're making an hour. If they're making $22 an hour, you just gave them $20 for 3 minutes worth of work. They now work for you. That's how he would explain it to me.
Yeah.
And so I realized, even in my own life, if I'm going to go to a hotel for, let's say, a week, and the room is $400 a night. So now you're, after taxes and everything, you're at $3,500, right?
Yep.
Bring $300 in $5 bills. And the entire time you're there, give every single person who works at the hotel a $5 bill. And your stay will be completely different.
Yep.
When you get to the pool, you'll be the first one who gets a drink offer. The guy who comes to when you ask for 1 towel, 2 towels will come. When you walk in and you don't have a mask and they're telling everyone else to put their mask on, you don't have to put your mask on. But everything changes for you.
But that's wrong, because that's bribery. That's corruption. Why are you advocating corruption?
I am 100.
But do you understand how a lot of people stateside are blocked in that regard? They don't realize.
Well, yes.
I'll
give you 2 perfect examples of that too. There's no such thing in the United States, and I'm being pretty absolute, as homelessness. That's a mischaracterization of drug addicts. I was homeless for 2 years and I lived in a car for 5 years. When you call someone homeless, then you're trying to address the homeless population. There's a very small percentage. When I was homeless, it was just me and one other guy of the 1,000 homeless people that I knew that weren't drug addicts. They were drug addicts, and that's what their fucking situation was. And so if you dress them as homeless, you'll never fix their situation.
Yeah.
Do I know what the situation is to fix drug addicts? No, I'm not claiming that. What I'm saying is you're blinded by the magicry and fuckery of words. And the other thing is why would I give money to a fucking charity that I haven't vetted when the kid at Starbucks just said, please, thank you to me, and he said, sir, would you like me to top your coffee off? That motherfucker gets a tip.
Yeah.
Because he's contributing to the society. Yeah, I'm like, anyone who thinks it's like bribery, like we should, I mean, you have a kid, we should be rewarding the people around us who help us in order to, it lifts all of society up.
You know, random faceless acts of kindness.
Yes. Yes.
You know,
one a day minimum.
And maybe it's a Catholic in me, or maybe it's just the guilt aspect.
It's your mom, dude. I bet you have a good mom.
Oh yeah, she was you know, not like these, you know, again, Latinxers who say, oh, my mom would hit me with the chancla, which is like the sandal. You know, my mom kind of had a fucking car antenna, you know. So you can,
oh my god.
So I guess she was into no nonsense, and she was a saint. You know, whenever I got the car antennas because I fucked up horribly. And
was your dad at home too?
Yeah. But my dad's, you know, he was always at work basically. You know, so it was mostly my mom. You know, I recently went to visit my family down south. Completely different dynamic. You know, comparing it to some of my American, you know, friends and family that I have down there. It's matriarchal in a lot of ways. As far as it's not as far as who is perceived to be in charge, but who is actually in charge, right? You know, it's all based on some of the, you know, Virgin of Guadalupe or the Virgin Mary kind of veneration that they have down there, where they put more emphasis on the mother side of it instead of the father. Again, it's probably related to some of our weird cultural roots.
Were your parents workaholics?
My dad was definitely a workaholic. My mother was she was very best way I can describe her was a mixture of Steve Irwin, you know, Crocodile Dundee, and I don't know, Patch Adams. You know, she was a mixture.
Oh, so she was flamboyant. She's a character.
Oh yeah, she was. I mean, everything I do and everything I am is, you know, usually like the knife design I have. I named it the Elvia, and it's because it's her knife design. She would grind down all fruit knives and to curved shape because that's what she liked to peel with.
Yeah,
that became the best-selling knife at Blade Show. I think a year back. There wasn't any available when I went there to promote it. She was a character. Hard life. She grew up in a place called a place in Tijuana called Cartonlandia. So basically, cardboard land is what they.
Oh, I thought it sounded like cartoon land. Say the name of it again.
Cartonlandia.
Wow,
it's a cardboard land. It was all washed out during one of the floods. She lost all of her little, you know, kid friends back then in one of those floods. Dad left at an early age.
That changes your normal. That shit changes your normal.
Yeah, she grew up. She grew up as a mother to her 2 younger sisters.
Damn.
And that was my mom. You know, that was it.
Have you been to India, Ed?
No, I have not.
Dude, you got to go. It'll trip you out. I haven't been to that ring the notorious and infamous ring around New York, around Mexico City that I always hear about.
You're talking about Tepito?
I just hear there's a fucking ring, the world's largest fucking ring of cardboard houses on the planet that you could probably see from space around Mexico City. Okay, you know, 5 million of the 10 million or 30 million people live in cardboard surrounding the outskirts of the city, and it just sounds.
I mean, poverty is a different thing in Mexico. Like, we don't have overweight drug addicts with smartphones hanging out at Starbucks. You know, That that is not poverty in Mexico. It's not a
That
choice.
wasn't nice, Ed.
It is. It is. I mean, again, I myself experienced homelessness as well, and I get to walk around LA. So if people want to have an argument with me, I'll meet you at Skid Row and we can talk about it. Right?
What do you mean? Skid Row at the Starbucks in Beverly Hills has 20 of those guys you just described.
Any like we have a manufacturing place in LA where we make a lot of our merch, and it is mind blowing to see, basically how they own the sidewalks. Basically, it's theirs. But again, poverty in Mexico is different. People actually starve to death and freeze to death on outside, and it's not a choice. People, I was asked this by somebody recently, like, why isn't there a large homeless population here in Tijuana? And the truth is that they die out. They come in waves. Some of them are deported back into Mexico, but from the United States. Some of them come wanting to cross, and all of them get addicted to some of the fentanyl heroin mixes that are now the norm in a lot of these border towns.
Is it safe to be homeless in Tijuana?
No.
No.
So people need to realize this. In most municipalities in Mexico, it is illegal, or at least regulated, that you should have an ID with you. And if you don't have one, that means 36 hours of imprisonment. So being homeless is a crime in Mexico, basically. Because
what if you have an ID though, and you're sleeping on the sidewalk?
I mean, they'll pick you up, and then for being what they call it,
vagrant.
It's not vagrancy. They call it something else in Mexico, but you'll get picked up anyway. That's why you see cop pickup trucks stacked with homeless people in the back, sometimes all handcuffed. It's because they're meeting an arrest quota.
Damn.
So they have to arrest a set amount of people, and it's that's why if you're in Tijuana, notice all the homeless people never have shoelaces or belts on. They just rather put like a rope on there. It's because the first thing that gets cut from them is belts and shoelaces. They get arrested by the municipal police. And it's basically just a recycling thing they do. They clean up all the homeless people. They put them in prison. They hose them down. 36 hours later, they're back out.
So, and that's one of the things you can just look at someone. I've heard you talk about, like, just looking at things. If you saw someone as a rope, as a belt, you're like, okay, this person's a frequent flyer in the jails.
Yeah, this person's a frequent flyer in the jails, and he probably can't run that much. Oh, that guy
that's a great picture.
That's some Wi-Fi on there. That's from that's some of the there's a 2-story house somewhere out in LA right now. Someone has on the sidewalk.
A 2-story homeless shelter, homeless camp.
Yeah,
that's dope.
Some of these guys are just
you got to see India. These slums, they're clean, but they're massive and they're filthy. It's so weird. I'm talking like 1 million people. And like a giant well in the center of town, and fucking cows and monkeys and dogs everywhere, and then just beautiful women walking around. It's nuts. It's the most bizarre scene.
There's some places like that in Tijuana, and I grew up there, and every now and then I get the word shithole spat at me when I talk about my hometown. There's some bad parts about it, but there's even in the bad parts, there's light and there's color. I've had some of the best meals that I've ever had in my life in some of these shanty towns on the periphery of Tijuana. There was a film crew that
the women and kids are sorry to interrupt. The women and kids are usually great. It's the fucking drug addict men in these fucking parts of the world that are just fucking it up.
Yeah, it is lack of opportunity. It is corruption at a high level in politics, and all the money being fucking funneled somewhere else, and is being fucking put into the margins of communities like that. Again, I had a film crew that I was working with, and they were like, Ed, take us to a cool restaurant. And I was like, why the fuck would I take you to a restaurant? And I went over, and there were some guys, albañiles, basically construction guys, doing work. And I said, hey, whatever you're going to buy for lunch, just buy double what you're going to buy, and I'll give you the cash. You know, they use the lid of a fuel drum as a, you know, as a cooking surface. And we had, and according to some of the guys that I was with, those were the best tacos that they ever had.
Yeah.
And it's a bunch of construction guys basically making everything, and one of their wives coming over with the tortillas and the salsa that she made at home. Things mean more. They're more,
Yeah.
The appreciation of some things like that. Basically, I paid for the food, and also what was left fed them for 2 weeks, you know, and the appreciation aspect of it. Going back there months later, one of the ladies came over and gave me like a thing she knitted, right? And I was like, you don't need to do. I mean, you don't need to do any of that. But I just, the realization, even as a Mexican, that that our presence there was felt that much, that they felt the need to do something like that for us. That was, you know, it's an eye-opening thing. Yes, some of these places are desolate. Yes, some of these places are rife with crime and drug addiction and violence. Some of these places are some of the most violent places on the planet right now when it comes to numbers. And places like in Tijuana, we have a whole community called La Sanchez Tabuada, which is pretty close to where one of the places I grew up in. And it is like 6 bodies a day.
Damn.
Right. And you see the places like this, and, you know, how can people live like that, or how can people live there, is something I commonly see people talk about. And all of these people that talk about it or question it are people that have the luxury of choice.
Right. Their normal is different than other people's normal.
Normal is a fluid concept, you know, just like gender is in the United States. You
know, oh, geez. Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
It's a fluid concept. You need to, as a country, you need to own it.
Hey, so when you say concept, you mean it's not real? It's just between my ears. It's my imagination.
You know, it's yeah. I think in essence it is. And if people are like,
good, oh, okay, then we're on the same page.
These people are poor. No, it's a fluid concept. You can talk about that as well. You know, but also normal is a fluid concept, but also,
just like short's a fluid concept. If I went to what was that town? I would be tall. I would no longer be short. I would be tall. And Oaxaca, also, yes. Oaxaca. Send me to Oaxaca, and short becomes fluid.
Yeah. Oh, that's 5'4". You know, there you go.
I'm 5'5".
There you go. You would be the giant midget basically of that
area. Ed.
There you go.
You're on my podcast. You can't call me a giant midget.
That's what they call themselves out there.
Oh,
right?
All right. Oh, okay.
It's all fluid. It's all fluid.
Giant midget.
Ed, I was really into macro photography for several years. That's when you like take pictures of bugs on plants because you have no real talent. So you just take pictures of small shit.
Oh,
and
great. I like that a lot.
And it's so fun. And there's something so zen and peaceful about it. But I could walk up to a bush and I would look at the bush and there would be no bugs in it. And I would take some deep breaths and I would take some deep breaths. I'd fidget with my camera and I would start seeing things that don't fit.
Yeah.
Patterns that are fucking out of whack.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, I see you. And all of a sudden there'd be 3 bugs and then 10 bugs. And you couldn't even fucking believe it's a bush full of fucking, it's a planet with just shit going on. But when you walked up in the first 3 minutes, you don't see shit. And I know 3 minutes doesn't seem like a long time, but it is a long time. Most people don't breathe and ever just sit down and look at a flower or a bush for 3 minutes. And then all of a sudden I'm like, well, shit, here we are. And I take off my bag and it's time to start documenting the 20 bugs in there, but only because I start seeing patterns that are out of whack. Is your job, does that resonate with you?
Yeah.
That this whole pattern thing, like, okay, this is a safe space. Wait a minute.
Yeah. Well, I have this drill I do with people where, I tell people to always scan, midsection, basically threat, direction, and intention. So midsection, basically look at somebody's waistline and hands first. Why? Because that's what's going to kill you. I can't spit poison at you like a weird lizard from Jurassic Park. So that's not going to be it.
Why waist? What's at your waist?
Most people conceal weapons at their waistline.
Okay.
And also most people move around with their hands at their waistline. If you can't see one of their hands, then it means that that should start putting perceived threats into your hands, into your head and mind. Problem is, a lot of us are very social beings and have never experienced violence. So the first thing we see in somebody is their face. I can smile at you and shoot you in the face from my hip. Then you will never see it if you only concentrate on somebody's face. You know,
right?
Somebody's who professional people will do this. People that are gonna rob you on the street will usually have a hey, what's going on? Give me the money right now. And it's to keep people's attention down and keep the threat level down as far as their face. So again, intention, threats, and direction. Finally, on the feet, and where are their feet pointing? Are they pointing away from me? Or are they pointing towards me? If they're pointing towards me, it means that they're approaching. So you start piecing things together. I like telling people that this is a skill set you have to work on every day. There's no trick to getting good at it. Just like any magic trick, it's all about repetition and mastery, right?
Yeah.
Observation wise, you learn some of that. And tracking, when I got to learn tracking skills from some pretty fucking amazing people. And one of the first things they had me do was take off my shoes. You take off your shoes, and why do you take off your shoes? So you slow down and you're more aware where you're stepping, right? So slowing down is a big aspect of it. And another aspect of it is educating your baseline. You go anywhere, I can go to, I went to Portland, and the baseline there when the riots were going on is everybody was wearing black, Even the state police were all in black, which was pretty funny that they were all color coordinated, right? So I perceived that I should be wearing black probably as a way to kind of be in that environment. And I realized quickly that most of the kids there were not even from there. And it became apparent because whenever the riot police would start firing tear gas, they would disperse into places that didn't make any sense.
Like where? Like, what do you mean?
They dispersed into a soccer field that was closed in, and the locals there were few and far between. I could see them disperse into places that made sense.
Right.
But, being somebody that's from Mexico, riot gas and tear gas is like, I use it as cologne, right? So
it's more common there, like significantly.
It's very common. Also, we use the strong stuff. They were using 2% CS gas on these protesters. It was all for show. I saw the cans and I was like, oh, that's that's fine. It's okay. Kick that to the side a bit. But
Damn.
You would see people run to places that didn't make any sense. That's what, then I realized, oh, all these people were bussed in to this riot, All these people were bussed into this riot. And then most of the people that are local are the ones that dispersed to places that made sense. Small observations like that you have to do by slowing down. Or standing still, just like you were standing in front of this bush that turned out to be a whole ecosystem of insects. Yep. All of us are, another aspect of, the things that I show people is that, we have our eyes to the front, which is most predators have the eyes to the front. So we're predators by nature. So the whole aspect of showing somebody anything nefarious, like, Ed, that's nefarious. That's ambushing somebody. That's very scary what you're showing. We're ambush predators. That's why there's no more mammoths, apparently. Because we're very good at that. All of us. And it is an aspect of our nature that has been neutered from us in a lot of ways by, violence doesn't solve anything. It does a lot.
How about those fucking English soldiers or whoever they were who would just line up on opposite sides of the field and then they'd say go and just cross and shoot each other? What the fuck was that? Was that the stupidest period of warfare in the history of mankind?
Maybe, there's a Mexican example of that. I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard a historian. Once the Spanish got done invading all of Mexico, they took some of the Tlaxcaltecan warriors, some of my ancestors, on a boat. And said, well, the Philippines is next. And you fuckers were pretty good here, so let's go, So at some point in history, a bunch of Mexican Tlaxcaltecan warriors fought Japanese pirate and samurais on the ocean with the Spanish.
Wow.
And And they were effective because they didn't follow, you know, conventional warfare. They would fucking climb over lines of soldiers to fucking just whip out their, you know, clubs and or whatever they would have, projectile weapons, and you know, fuck over the other side.
Yeah, combat with rules is really weird. Do bad guys have an advantage because they don't have rules as opposed to the good guys?
I mean, you know, I could say that a video of the Taliban dancing with night vision and M4s after you guys left Afghanistan are proof of this. You know, they'd say, you know, you have the watches, but we have the time. What they are willing to sacrifice as far as a nation and what they're fighting for is way different than the United States was doing there. You know, Vietnam is another example. Fourth generational warfare is basically small non-state actors fighting for control of their local communities or populations. That is what Mexico is taking the world to school in right now. You know, as far as what that's why I'm hired to advise on a lot of things. It is not that they have the advantage. It is that the government side of it, the conventional side of it, even the unconventional special forces side of it are slow to change. They're slow to move from a counter-terrorist, global terrorist fighting force to now fighting, you know, what threats are perceived now. You know, what's a perceived threat right now? Is the U.S. fighting global terrorism now, or is it on the defensive with a big Chinese state actor pumping in fentanyl into Mexico and sponsoring a specific cartel while it generationally pumps in a lot of poisons into your country?
Well, it brainwashes kids with TikTok or rewards them with shit on TikTok.
And you can't say anything bad about them, or Disney won't show your Netflix series or your reality show or whatever, which is mind blowing to me. You know, NBA, you can't say anything bad about that. I've been, you know, people ask me like, aren't you worried about their cartels? I've had doors closed on me because of some of the things that I've reported on and said about China and its interference in Mexico and the United States. You know, this is America. You know, this is the United States that I have come into. You know,
it's a trip. Yeah, if you try following me on Instagram for the last year, they'll give you a big warning. Do not follow this man. He's full of misinformation and
shadow banned. You know.
Yeah.
Why don't they just kick me off? It's so weird.
Well, all my idols are shadow banned. My enemies are revealed is a quote that anonymously was posted up somewhere online. I think.
Yes. I 100% believe that.
All my idols are shadow banned. My enemies are revealed. I think that alone says a lot about our modern, you know, what's going on right now, and specifically. I get a lot of people, Ed, you should go to this other app or should go to this one conservative app over here. It's like you're missing the point.
Yes, I agree.
You know, if you're here listening and you still find me even through the shadow band, you are the resistance, whoever you are. You know, like I have graffiti artists that follow me because they like some of my background and the ways that I learned how to break into places when I was skateboarding cartel houses. As far as the pools that they had, they would chain them up after they would get raided when I was a kid. Break in there, fucking skateboard on that fucking pool. You know?
Are you doing any music these days? Any painting? Any writing? What are you doing that's creative these days?
There's every now and then I post these things called fever dreams. They're all part of a journal that I keep, a therapy journal. I've been going through a series of, you know, therapy related issues for 5 years. I mean, all along my immigration process, I've been just going through. You know, I learned the word PTSD or the concept of PTSD after coming to the United States. Stuff like that.
You didn't have the luxury of having PTSD in Mexico. You're already getting soft, Ed.
It's not even the luxury. It's we didn't have the word, the language for it. There was
naming is the origin of all particular things.
yeah, I mean, if you have the language for it, that's a start. I've been sober, I've been alcohol free for about a year and 2 months now.
Oh, wow.
And all,
Congrats.
and
You
all
have
of these.
nice skin. You have nice skin. I wonder if that's why. Did you always have nice skin?
No, it's swimming in the ocean and running around in some fucking mind blowing beaches in Colima that are cartel controlled for the past few days.
Okay. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. A year and a half without alcohol.
Yeah. And a lot of these things, I think the big draw of my Instagram account is the openness that I have had, as far as not only talking about some of the things that are interesting that I'm currently doing and moving around there and sharing news from Mexico that is completely unbiased and direct from the source, on the ground stuff, to sharing a few memes that make light of being Mexican, and kind of laughing a little bit about ourselves, and not doing so in any, like, I'm not offended about any of the Mexican meme stuff and stuff like that. To showcasing some of the stuff that I carry in my pockets. There's a right now, if that where the blue pillar is, if you can click on below that, that one, to sharing moments of my life like this one. I went down and visited some family, and they're all Guadalupanos, and I've been reconnecting with some of that spiritual side. I've never kneeled in front of anybody in my life except my aunt, who gives me that blessing. And
that's such a great shot of you hugging her.
The whole aspect of healing and going through the processes that I'm going through in the open, and having that aspect of, hey, dude, it's all right to not wake up at 4 a.m. and do kettlebell exercises and have your hands bleeding. It's all right that not all of us can be these elite warriors that are about just being extreme and just not feeling pain. I am a cautionary tale. I've been broken. My world's ended a few times, and I write about some of these things through the fever dreams.
What do you mean your world's been broken a few times? Like, really, like you thought you were going to die, or you were depressed and tried to commit suicide, or what do you mean you've been broken?
I mean, if you imagine being in a country where you're imagine being like where you are right now.
Yeah.
If I told you in 2 years or in a year you're not going to be where you are, you're going to be in a completely different country starting from zero.
I'd freak out the fuck out.
With the money you have in your pocket.
Oh no.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Fucked.
Which is exactly what happened to me.
I don't even have shoes on, Ed.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Don't do that to me.
Barefoot, it's fine.
So a rebirth, basically, it's a complete fucking ego check.
I think it's important to.
Were you homeless?
Yeah, for a bit.
Yeah.
It's important. It's important to realize that you have to concentrate on new beginnings, and always keep in mind that there is always an end. Right. It's something that I was shown at my first command position that I ever had when I was working. I was a regional sub commander, and they had a 80-something agents underneath my care, and I was like, why the fuck me, right?
Yeah.
Somebody, and a very amazing mentor of mine, a man by the name of Leizaola, as a lieutenant colonel from the Army. He said, well, this is your job now. And he gave me a silver coin. All right. And I was like, grabbed it and said, put it in your pocket. And said, always carry it with you. And he told me, I'm going to give you another one when your job's over. When this job is over, I'll give you the other one. It's up to you if I give it to you and you put it in your pocket, or if I put it over your eyes.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
And
he said it's up to you. Wow.
And he explained to me, every job you start, every process you start in life, everything in life has an ending to it. It is important to concentrate and realize that this job will end. It's up to you. It's up to you to realize how that's going to happen. And that was life-changing, every time I go somewhere, every time I start a new project, every time I figure something out, every time I, log on to Instagram, I'd realize that one day that's going to be gone. That one day it's going to be over, and I'm on to the next thing. I was a kid playing in a punk band and skateboarding, in 1 month, and then the next month I was being shaven. My head was being shaven bald by a bunch of ex special forces guys in a refurbished prison and being trained to be a paramilitary agent, right? And then I said, I'm never going to do anything else in my life. This is what I am. This is where I need to be. And all of a sudden, that is completely over and gone, and I am left without anything. So what's next? And I've been going through a few of those in my life.
Ed, are we going to have you for a few more minutes? Do you have to go?
I got about like 15 minutes more.
Okay. I need 30 seconds to go pee in the bushes.
Sure.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Hey, Ed, I got a quick question about your Instagram. Do you post everything on there yourself?
No.
Okay.
I have some people that help me out with not only maintaining it, but also posting things for me that I forget to post. But a lot of it is very personal. It is very much a ride along with me. It is very much a kind of a look at some of the stuff that I'm doing as basically ride along.
Yeah.
We've been starting to expand onto Patreon. I've been shadow banned for months now. It's hard to find me on Instagram, so
yeah,
I've been trying to fix that by having a place where people that really want to support and follow us, and to share some of the aspects that have been kind of difficult to share openly on Instagram. So
yeah, being exposed to everything you have been in the heightened sense of awareness of your environment, is it tough for you to ever just turn that off or tone it down a little bit? Like if you're just going out to dinner and you're in a safe environment, or you're here in the United States and there's relatively no threat, is it hard to tone that down, or are you always just kind of scanning, looking? Is that just a part of you now?
I always talk about the biggest lie that was ever told to me is that I was going to get better or heal. That was the biggest lie that it was ever told to me, and it's not true. If you go through some of the things that I've gone through, and I'm not unique, and I've met people that have gone through things way, way worse in my metric than myself. It doesn't matter. It's not a measuring competition. Broken is broken. Change is change. And despite the fact that a lot of us want to go back to whatever we perceived as normal, that place is gone. It doesn't exist. It is a fantasy that gets sold to us. It is about learning how to live with things. It is about learning how to weaponize some of the failures in your past and sharpen them and use them as a weapon.
It's the Kyle Creek thing again.
Yeah.
Do you hear what comedians are the exact same way. Writers are the same way. Take all the shit that's happened to you in your life, and once you're able to process it and settle it down, creativity and new shit will go from it. The worst shit that happens to you in your life, when it finally settles down and is rotting shit inside of you, if you're creative, if you're able to turn it into that, you'll see seedlings come out of it, right? Yeah. Like out of the dead carcasses. Yeah, horrible experiences are the exact same way. Yes.
I keep an altar.
You assimilate them, right? Is that what you mean? You don't heal from them. You assimilate them into your character. You accept them.
If somebody throws an arrow at you,
yeah,
a symbolic arrow, and it lands on your back, you rip it out and you use it to stab the motherfucker in front of you. That if he's a threat,
Yeah.
But the thing is that a lot of us take that arrow out and throw it away and forget about the arrow.
Or sit there and complain about it.
And sit there and complain about it, or we get fed this lie that you're gonna get better, you're gonna get, you're gonna go back to normal, you're gonna go back home. Veterans get this lie as well. You go to war, everything matters, everything is life and death. You get millions of dollars worth of equipment as your responsibility. Your focus is clear, your purpose is clear. Enemy over there, friends over here. Keep friends safe. Keep this line. Hold the line. All of a sudden, all that shit's gone.
Yeah.
You get off the bus, as we call it, and who are you now? Are you going to go back to normal? What is normal?
What is normal? Yeah.
Basically, the thing I'm talking about is realizing that you're not a fixed point, and normality isn't a fixed point. It is a constant thing that is moving in front of you. A friend of mine told me we are walking backwards into the future, and all we have is the smiles of our ancestors to guide us through.
Say that again. We're walking backwards.
We're walking backwards into the future, and all we have is the smiles and the faces of our ancestors to guide us through. And it's not just our ancestors; it's also people like me, people like other of my friends and colleagues that have gone through shit, and we are looking at you saying, "Don't be an idiot," you know. Don't do this, don't do that. This is dangerous. We are cautionary tales. There's a big poison in emulation when it comes to personalities out there, and it takes a lot of somebody like me to basically be public about my sobriety, my immigration process, which a lot of people are very touchy. They don't want to talk about it because it's something that you kind of feel ashamed of or feel private about. If it's not me talking about it, if it's not my voice talking about it, I don't see somebody like myself out there.
Me neither.
That's why I speak about it, you know.
But they're out there.
So
they
important.
just know they're just different. They're and you're just blazing the way, man. You're fucking so awesome. How are you handling all of this attention? How does a humble boy who's just trying to fucking survive day to day, being raised in Tijuana, manage now the internet? Oh my God, Sevan, you have Ed Calderon on? Ed Calderon? Holy shit. I mean, it's Ed Calderon. How are you handling that? I mean, when I told people I was having you on, they're like, holy fuck, you've made it. You've arrived, Sevan, with your podcast.
I'm selfish about it as far as using it for what I think it should be used for. We just paid for an eye operation for one of my, he was a good friend of mine that I used to work with, but he's left a kid behind after he was killed. Government doesn't support families that are doesn't support the sons or siblings of people that are unmarried because of weird policies down there. So I just paid for an eye operation for somebody like that. I got equipment for a whole group of people that are completely ill-equipped and under-equipped in Mexico. We're working on some donations for the Recon Sniper Foundation. I just raised $4,000 for the Ryan Terry Foundation for the the former Border Patrol agent that was killed by some of those guns from Fast and the Furious, which some of my friends were also killed by them. But again, who would I be if I would just focus on I'm Mexican and fuck everything on the U.S. side, or I'm on the U.S. side, so fuck everything on the Mexican side? I have to find a way to basically bridge the gap as far as what's going on between both sides. Everybody wants everything to be either one side or the other right now.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that sometimes, for sure.
And my experience is, there are no sides,
Right. Right. Yeah. Are you religious, man? Do you believe in God?
I was raised Catholic. I'm a Guadalupano by heart. Basically, I'm a devotee of La Virgen de Guadalupe, and I was exposed to the cult of Santa Muerte, which is a very misunderstood and very much culturally appropriated faith in the United States. That's the basis of my faith, I would say.
What is there a moment in your life when you have experienced something so unknown, or maybe some people would call it a moment of eternity? Maybe you experienced it in danger. Maybe you experienced it in skateboarding. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I've been close to, not being here. I'd say, most people will think I'm going to talk about some weird cartel story or getting shot at or being beaten half to death with all of these things happened to me. When I was coming off drinking last year, there was a moment that I felt my chest cave in. Alcohol is one of those drugs that will kill you if you leave it. I think it's one of the only ones that will do such a thing.
Meaning if you stop cold turkey and you've been on it for so long, you could have you could die.
Yeah.
Crazy. That's the second time I've heard that in 300 shows I've done. That's crazy.
Going through that whole process, I felt very ashamed of it in a lot of ways. So I locked myself in, and I kind of went through it solo, with nothing but an altar of the Virgin Mary in a corner and a mattress in the other somewhere. Kind of shut myself in. I had people that would check in on me, but it was mostly it was a process that I had to go through. It was a hell of a process to go through. At some point during the night, I felt my chest kind of cave in, and very close to calling 911. Passed out. I woke up in the bathroom, vomiting, and very close to just quitting. And out of the blue, I got this long letter. Every now and then I get them through email, and there's a lady that helps me out sorting some of these emails out. And I always tell them if there's anything personal nature, just send it my way. And I usually try and respond. Kid who has, a lot of issues in his past, who went to one of my classes, and he just got, his first job, and he's working for a law enforcement agency somewhere out there in the U.S. Sent me a picture of him graduating, and also a picture of his kid, unborn kid.
Oh, right? Yeah, the ultrasound. That's dope.
And the whole, thank you for inspiring him to go that route 3 years ago when we interacted. And at the end of it, he said, and this is from my mom.
Oh.
And it was a rosary that is exactly like the rosary my mom gave me when I graduated.
Wow.
So in that moment, I kind of saw the sign. I don't think God comes down from the sky and slaps you in the back of the head.
Damn close. That was close though.
Yeah.
I think it's through the bending of probability and alignment that we see the divine. I think
say that again. Through the bending of probability and alignment.
I think it's through the bending of probability and alignment that we experience the divine. And I think at that moment I was pulled out of something.
Wow.
How long were you in that room? How long was the detox, so to speak?
That was a bit over a month.
Wow.
Shit.
Wow. And no, did you have comms with the outside world? Did you have a phone? Yeah.
It was,
but just leave me alone for a month. I'm going to quit drinking.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not smart. Don't do that. It's horrible.
I think everyone should fucking lock themselves in a room. My greatest moment is I locked myself in a room for 5 days once, and what I fucking witnessed was life altering.
Isolation is a gift.
Yeah.
Isolation is a gift. And again, if you fear it, if you fear being alone, I think it's mostly you fear that conversation that you're going to have with yourself. That is what you're fearing, not being alone. When things get quiet, when there's nobody around, when there's no distraction, when your fucking bullshit humor, self-defense mechanism that you developed over years of being.
I have a fantastic one.
Oh, most of the people that have been through shit have an excellent. but once there's nobody there to make laugh or entertain, you're fucked. You need to talk to yourself. There's nothing outside of yourself. Look within. Miyamoto Musashi used to say, it is a process. It is a process. I think a lot of us that go through these insane life experiences don't get that, because it's scary, and facing the void and blinking. Some people die, in that experience. If anything, I think that specific experience for me was pretty close to the divine.
And I had some a pretty intense experience, a solo experience, and then then for a couple months I was trying to like process like what happened. You know, when something like that happens, you're trying to process it.
Yeah.
And I figured, okay, and I was basically losing my mind. I couldn't find any help. I couldn't find any books. I was struggling to process this experience. So I decided, I was like, okay, I'm going to jump in my truck and I'm going to drive to Moab. And I'm just going to camp in my truck alone for a week and just like fucking decompress and get to the quietest place I know on the planet. But I decided before I leave, I need to take my car stereo out because I don't want to listen to any radio or any music on the way. So that night I went to bed. And then in the middle of the night, I got up like at 3 a.m. to check my truck for something. And I stumbled upon some robbers and they had pulled my stereo out and had my speakers out and then ran off. So I had my stereo, my speakers there, but shit, the shit was taken out for me. I didn't have to do it. Put the shit in a box, sold it, got some extra gas money for my trip and hit the road. And I was like, holy shit.
Wow.
And it reminds me of what you were saying about the bending of probability and alignment. I was like, thank you. Yeah, nice. I mean, nice. Thanks for taking that shit out for me. and they ran off before they could take it. I mean, I was just like, holy shit, this is crazy.
It's acceptance. You know, it's another aspect of healing, and another aspect of going through some of these things. You know, there's horrible shit happens to people. Tragedy is part of life. Horrible things. But Ed, if you believe in God, well, like why are all these orphans dying of hunger over here? What's this happening over there? It is part of life. That is part of the whole experience, part of the whole ride. There's a lot of things that happen. Now, are you going to do anything about it? You know, is that your place? I've in a lot of ways, I think that is all I have right now, doing something about some of the things that I've gone through and some of the things that I witnessed and some of the things that I wish were better. That's been a big aspect of my current existence.
How old are you?
I'm 39.
Oh shit. You're still young. Will you get gray hair? Do dudes of your ethnic descent get gray hair? You do get gray hair?
Oh yeah. I'm gonna get all the pico nevado, you know, like a snowy hilltop later on in life, probably.
Before I let you go, what are you doing next? I want to have you on again, like in 6 months. What can I be like? Oh, Ed, you said you were coming out with a book or a movie. Please come back on my show. What can I lure you back here with? Give me the what do you got coming up?
We're working on 2 books right now. One of them is the collection of the fever dreams, which is basically my process of sobriety, the trauma of going from, you know, being a kid that is singing on stage in a weird backyard somewhere with his punk rock band, and then burying 4 of his friends that were just recently killed somewhere in a dystopian landscape somewhere in Tijuana as a police agent. That's one of the things that we're working on. And another one, which is very important, near and dear to my heart, is a devotional manual of a sort that I'm working on, specifically talking about some of the elements of spirituality that I've been reconnecting with, that I grew up with, and that I've held during some of the worst times of my life. Specifically talking about my experiences growing up as a Guadalupano and then being introduced to Santa Muerte by some of the people that I work with and some of the people that I got to work against, you know.
What's a walla de baño?
What?
What did you say? I heard you say growing up as a walla de baño.
Guadalupano. Yeah, which is basically a devotee of the Virgin of Guadalupe.
Okay.
Or the
I wasn't even close.
Not even close on that one.
And of course, and of course, our Patreon. We just set up a Patreon. I'm shadow banned as all hell.
On Instagram?
I'm shadow banned on Instagram. So there's no way to find me unless you type in the whole Ed's Manifesto __ thing.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy though? You're in my feed pretty strong right now. I mean, I know people say that to me all the time too. Like, but I try
and do paid promotion, and I do a lot of reels, which basically puts some of my content out there because they're in competition with TikTok, so they're desperate, I guess.
Yeah.
But other than that, I keep getting news related things taken down because they violate community standards, and there's news related things, which it's getting to a place where and people have to realize I have no sponsors. I'm not like any of these other tactical community guys that have like, I'm sponsored by Colt, I'm sponsored by, I have
Smith and Wesson. Yeah.
I have no sponsors at all. And it's not because we haven't tried. It's just that I probably piss off a lot of people with all the shit that I say. Maybe, I don't know. But we just have no sponsors. So one thing we've been trying to do is, if you like the feed, if you like what I put out, if you like what we're doing, we started a Patreon. I'm sharing some more aspects of some of the stuff that I do there, some segments of some of the classes that I do there. And also just, basically begging people for, the means to sustain this weird ass trip that I'm on. So if you can, please support us through Patreon.
What is the Patreon account? Ed Manifesto?
Yeah. There's a link on my Instagram account or on our website, www.edsmanifesto.com.
I know this is easier said than done, but why not pen out a revenge Hollywood movie? Bad guys do something, good guys come in, they fuck them up and win, and you stamp your name on it, and we all go see it, and you have some money.
All I'm going to say is that I can't talk about it.
Yes. Yes. Ed, what a pleasure. 7 pages of fucking notes here. I didn't even have to touch them once. You're a fucking podcaster's dream, wet dream. You are a gentleman amongst all gentlemen. How great having you on. Your integrity is refreshing. Thanks for being you, man.
Thank you for having me on. I enjoy these conversations. And specifically, I just enjoy being able to support people that support me. So, thank you for investing in me, and I hope my investment in you guys was worth it.
Dude, totally.
Thank
Absolutely.
you, Ed. Thank you.